for me, reading this plan was illuminating at times, and some of the facts that are quoted in the plan are concerning. We know, for example, that our Shire has higher rates of chronic disease, mental health challenges, and preventable hospitalisations than the Victorian average. But it's heartening to know that the plan has been developed together with a range of government, health and community service organisations who, together with council, have a vital role to play. It's a little bit different in some ways to the council plan in that way, in the way that it's been developed. So council together with those organisations and agencies has a vital role to play, both promoting health and wellbeing and in addressing some of those concerning health issues. The plan is endorsed by Dalkaya Health, Jarrah, Nalderun, and the Healthy Mount Alexander Alliance. And the ongoing active collaboration of these organisations is going to be vital to its success. The community is also once again a vital partner and has been a powerful voice, not just in expressing need, but ensuring that its own capacity for contributing is taken into account, ensuring that place-based mental health programs, peer networks, and support for carers and inclusive models are part of the plan. It's an important document, and it's also a very readable and informative document that will continue to live. Like any model of health and wellbeing, it needs to be responsive to changing community needs and continue to adapt and seek better ways to support a healthier, fairer and more resilient community across all life stages and across every part of our population.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillor colleagues, for your words, and Director Knight and team and partners for getting this together. I think we're so lucky in so many ways to have the fantastic services that we do in this Shire, and being in a rural community, those services are ever more important due to the intersecting disadvantages that many in our community face. So the commitments and the ambitions of this plan, I think, are particularly important. And I just wanted to underline a couple here that jumped out at me. They're definitely not the most important. There's many important things in here, but the need for community pantries. Cost of living is biting incredibly hard. Reports, not specifically from this Shire, are that people are relying on these sorts of services more than ever before. So incredibly important that we do this. Advocating for healthy foods in our schools and clubs is particularly important, given the important leadership role these institutions play and the influence they have on our young people in the setting of their healthy habits. Upgrading of footpaths, active transport infrastructure for vulnerable cohorts, advocating for better alcohol and other drug treatments, alcohol harm reduction and prevention, energy efficiency and literacy, shade in public space and the increase of tree canopy, promotion of respectful relationships and consent education, which I think is particularly important as we try to make improvements across our society. Training of staff in trauma-informed and culturally safe practices, and gender equity and safety initiatives. These are all really important, not to say the other ones aren't. And then finally, just to underline that this plan recognises that that cultural diversity is increasing in our Shire. So it's great to see initiatives focused at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Councillor Cordy, you've got a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to thank the councillors that have spoken in support of this public health and wellbeing plan. Look, I'd also acknowledge the work of all the councillors. It was mentioned in the previous item that it is a new council with a mix of new and more experienced councillors, but I can assure the community we've got a fantastic council, and there's a lot of really good work going on. But yeah, I just can conclude by thanking Director Knight and her team again for presentation of a beautiful plan. And you know, the bottom line is you plan for success, and yeah, so well done in putting the plan together, Director Knight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy, and thank you, everyone. I will now put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion carried, and we have adopted our 25 to 29 Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan as well. I'll speak briefly. I think, again, it's just such an accomplishment to have right now adopted these two big pieces of work that really do inform the rest of our council term, really, and the direction that we, you know, prioritise our work in. And I find the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, I remember last time when we adopted the previous incarnation, I think there were 11 or 12 items. It was big. And I think I spoke at length to all of them, which was quite annoying for everyone else. So I won't do that today. But I think what I really got this time, as I did get last time, is it's particularly, I think, in the demographic and social profile, some of the, and you know, statistics are statistics, and I understand that, you know, sometimes you just look at them and think about numbers, but I think increasingly we are all seeing the very human face of some of these numbers, especially when it comes to that kind of well-being, I guess. Even if people aren't struggling actively with mental health problems, I feel like people's well-being is reduced at the moment, kind of across the board. A lot of people are really struggling, and there's a lot of contributing factors to that. But I know, you know, we do have a tendency for people to be isolated here. We do have a tendency for people to struggle with things like drinking and drug use. We do have a tendency for people to not feel as good in their health and well-being as they could. And I think anything that we can ever do, along with our, you know, fantastic partner organisations, to address any of the things that we know are affecting people and have been affecting people for some time often. You know, it's always the same things, as much as the numbers change. And yeah, I just feel like we've been chipping away at some of this stuff for such a long time, and it would be really nice if there was some acknowledgement that we really need more services in Shire, delivering place-based interventions, prevention services for people who live here, because I think it's another one of those things where council can only do so much. Even working in partnership with others, we can only do so much. And I feel like we're really at a point where we're asking people for help and asking people to remember that we are a shire in our own right. We have lots of people living here who need more than they're getting, and who perhaps cannot access the help that they need somewhere else. So I feel like something that we're very committed to is trying to get more of those place-based services here to serve the people who need it the most in our community. It's pretty exciting to have adopted these two pieces of work. One thing I did want to mention that no one else picked up on, so I'm going to do it, is that by adopting these two plans, we are wrapping up our two previous plans, and looking at both of those. The previous Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, we completed 100% of the actions, and the council plan, all but one. And it's a difficult one, and I will read what it says. It's a multi-year project, and it's incomplete due to the timing of the receipt of external funding. So we are very close, but I think celebrating the wrapping up of those plans is big too. And you know, there's 4 of us here who sat on the last council who went through the process of creating that one. I've been reflecting about when we adopted these the last time around, how I looked into the future, 4 years into the future, and it just felt like forever away. And now to have sat through an entire council cycle and to be, you know, forging ahead with new colleagues and a new council plan, a municipal public health and wellbeing plan, it's pretty exciting. And I think, in 4 years, when when you're sitting here at the end of this, you'll feel that same kind of pride and satisfaction of like, we did this quite difficult thing, and not just for we didn't just write a document. We did what the document said. It's pretty exciting. I'm going to stop talking now, and we will move on to the next item. (9.1.3). It's a delegations review, establishment and appointment and delegation to Chief Executive Officer for Community Asset Committees. Councillor Driscoll, would you introduce this item, please?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. This report seeks Council's approval to establish community asset committees for various facilities and to appoint associated members of those committees under Section 65 of the Local Government Act 2020. These provisions must be reviewed by Council within 12 months of a general election in accordance with this Act. And Mayor, I would like to move that Council establish the following asset committees under Section 65 of the Local Government Act 2020 as printed.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. I thought you were going to go for it and read them all out for a second, but there are 20 of them, so it would have taken some time. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Maltby, thank you. Is there any opposition? No. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Council has 20 existing community asset committees that manage community assets on behalf of Council, and the establishment and appointment of these community asset committees are made under Section 65 of the Act. Council wouldn't be able to function as well as it does without these. These are voluntary organisations. Many people have been on these committees for many years and do a great job. So I'd like to thank those too. And I think all councillors should adopt this. Otherwise, Council will have a lot more work and not be able to do a lot of the wonderful services that we already do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thanks. Councillor Driscoll's right. There is 20 and they range from the Barford Hall Committee to the Taradale Hall Committee or the Guildford Rec Reserve, etc. And those people that are on those committees are locals that are helping their community with our assets and keeping them in good order and usable. So they need congratulations for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Hastwell.
Thank you, Mayor. And it just strikes me how appropriate this item is after what we've been talking about with the council plan and also health and wellbeing. These halls and assets across the Shire each have often a quite extraordinary character to them, and they often occupy quite a significant place in their communities, and they are places where people come together. We've just been talking about how important it is for individuals and communities to connect with each other, and these halls offer a simple way of doing that. There are also places where there's diversity and inclusion, and that's one of the very significant things that these committees can help to facilitate. So again, as with my fellow councillors, I think we're very grateful and appreciative. There's a lot of work that goes into these committees. It's voluntary and it's often very critical to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Nope. Councillor Driscoll, back to you for a right of reply.
No, I'm right. Thank you.
No worries. I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion carried. And as everyone has said, we are very grateful to the members of the community asset committees who do manage a whole host of council assets on our behalf, from recreation reserves and halls and community centres and one stadium, I think, all across the Shire. And there's so many. There's, I mean, 20, and that's, you know, that's not all the halls and reserves there are across the Shire, but it's enough. And I think, you know, we all at one time or another have attended Community Asset Committee meetings in our particular wards. And I think, you know, the common experience that we have is just being pretty impressed about the capability and passion of the people who sit on these committees, because they're doing it in a voluntary role. They're looking after often pretty complex assets, and they're doing it. It feels like a labour of love, you know. The Community Asset Committee meetings that I attend, they've put so much of themselves into these places. It feels, you know, it feels like an extension of themselves in some ways, and I think we're very, very lucky for that. And I think we also need to acknowledge that, especially for the committees that are managing or looking after our recreation reserves, it's becoming a more complex space as more and more sporting teams are popping up, and there's, you know, more users than ever. So we're very appreciative for the work that they do and will continue to do. We're up to item 9.1.4, expression of interest for appointment of trustee to the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's approval of the attached request for proposal document to enable the appointment of a trustee to the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust, colloquially known as the MART. The request follows Council approval of the MART deed, the terms of reference for the MART Advisory Committee and the inaugural members of the MART Advisory Committee. If approved and subject to the adequacy of the responses to the request for proposal that are received, it is intended that the recommendation regarding appointment of a trustee for the MART will be presented to Council for consideration in the first quarter of 2026. And Mayor, I'd like to move that Council approves the draft request for proposal document as attached, and notes that it will be publicly advertised for a period of approximately 2 months thereafter. And 2, notes that the report recommending the appointment of a trustee for the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust will be presented for consideration at a future meeting of Council.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Maddock, thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Look, the concept of establishing this, the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust, has been going on for a number of years, of which I've sat on when the committee was formed as the council's delegate. It's pretty unique. It's initiative that we haven't seen. I haven't seen in many councils, and I think it's really important that we continue down this path. With it has flexibility and capacity to respond to various changing housing needs within our community. It offers the potential of the trust for high confidence that it will deliver its outcomes as promised, and it enables council to ensure that the trustees are accountable for delivering the objectives of the trust deed. What we're doing today is putting out the document so that we can go out to public tender and try and get a trustee who will also potentially help with contributions to the fund and to the Affordable Trust moving forward. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Maddock, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I've been really impressed sort of learning about this trust sort of coming into council, and I guess the what I recognise as being pretty amazing ambitions and dedication on the behalf of the staff and the previous council in getting this set up. It's hugely ambitious. I think this is it's hugely ambitious, but it's also so far hitting all its marks, which is increasingly exciting. And this is an important next step in this in the journey of the creation of the trust. So it's really exciting, along with the big project announcement recently, which was another massive milestone and perhaps an unexpected one for the trust, which has been a really big boon. I think it's testament to the previous council's work and the vision of some of our officers and executive to aim high. We've got a huge problem with housing in the Shire, as we do across the state, but maybe potentially more so here, given our relative isolation and the increasing property prices, which are creating a lot of problems for people of low income and our essential workforce to access housing. So yeah, the hope is that this trust works. It does everything we can to address some of those things, and so far it's hitting its marks. And so congratulations to everyone on the next milestone of this exciting thing. Thank you. Thanks, ma'am.
Thanks, Councillor Maddock. Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay. All right. Back to Councillor Driscoll then.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Just a bit of a timeline. So if this gets approved tonight, then we will submit proposal by November 25. December 2025, there'll be an interview of shortlisted applicants. February, March 2026 will be the decision to appoint a trustee. April 2026, the trustee will be formally appointed. In April 2026, the ACNC and ATO applications will commence. So it is pretty formal from here. We do have an ambition of around $10 million. That is an ambition, but that's what we think we can get to. And just on a side note, there is the committee of the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust is a voluntary committee from individuals within our Shire with all different skills. And we come together on a monthly basis to moving through this. And I want to thank those individuals for their excellent help. There's not one member of that committee that doesn't put in. So I'd like to just acknowledge them. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll, and thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? Fantastic. Motion is carried. Yeah, so another step towards potentially the March, the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust. And from here, we'll be able to go out and to try and find the right trustee to fit the trust and to, you know, along with the committee that the advisory committee that Councillor Driscoll sits on, you know, it's pretty exciting, I think, to think about what could potentially be. And if this works, which we really hope it does, the ability for the trust to provide affordable housing in our Shire potentially forever. I think that is something very exciting to be a part of, something that can, you know, outlive this council and outlive potentially all of us, and, you know, have that real purpose of perpetually providing affordable housing to the people who need it most in our Shire. So from here, we will go out and try and find the trustee that is the right fit, and you know, we'll continue our journey from there. But it is something I think that we've been through on a real journey already. So it's pretty exciting to, I guess, be edging closer to a point where we could potentially have the trust up and running, separate from council, doing its own thing, and hopefully providing affordable housing for people in our Shire. Item 9.2, environment. We don't have any matters today. 9.3, economy, and 9.3.1, 2024-2025 financial and performance statements. Councillor Maltby, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you. The financial and performance statements for the year ended 30th of June 2025 are provided for council for their endorsement. The draft statements were provided to and reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee on the 9th September 2025. The Auditor General is currently reviewing the financial and performance statements and will advise Council when they are authorised to be signed by the Chief Executive Officer, Principal Accounting Officer and nominated councillors. As required by the Local Government Act 2020, the annual report must be presented at a meeting of Council for adoption within 4 months following the end of the previous financial year. The signed and certified financial and performance statements will replace the draft statements included in the 2024-2025 annual report. And I would move that Council, as endorsed by the Audit and Risk Committee, approves in principle the draft financial and performance statements for 2024-2025, authorises the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, CEO and Principal Accounting Officer to certify the statements in their final form after any changes recommended or agreed to by the auditors have been made, authorises the Principal Accounting Officer to make any changes to the financial and performance statements that may arise out of the audit, requires the Principal Accounting Officer to notify councillors and the Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee of any proposed material changes to be made to any of the statements, sends a copy of the statements in their final form to members of the Audit and Risk Committee, and notes that a final copy of the statements will be included in the annual report.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Who was that? Hayden? Thank you. Any opposition? No. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you. It's straightforward, basically. The Audit and Risk Committee have looked through the draft statements that the staff have prepared, and it's now before the government, for want of a better description. And as time goes on, it will be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. It is really important that we progress with sound finances. All the wonderful work we've alluded to through the Community Health and Wellbeing, Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan and the Council Plan, and all the work that we've been engaged with for the last 12 months. None of this we can really achieve without sound finances, and it's really satisfying to be part of an organisation who is solvent and where we're all on the same page in terms of maintaining a good financial position. I want to commend the responsible officer, management accountant Kay Davis, and Director of Corporate Services Julie Landy for overseeing a report which is very legible, very clear, and as I say, is testament to the solvency of this organisation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The the statements have been produced for the financial year 30th of June 25, and our RSD audit have undertook their annual financial review from the 7th to the 8th of August 2025, and my understanding is that the Auditor General has signed off. The statements include the comprehensive income statement, the balance sheet, cash flow statement, equity statement, and capital work statements, and associated notes summarise the financial position of Council as of the 30th of June 25, and for the year ended 30th of June 2025, Council will report an operating surplus of 1.95 million, and the result for last year was a deficit of 2.58 million. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does anyone else wish to speak? No. Councillor Maltby, right of reply.
Both Councillor Hayden and Councillor Driscoll are correct. Everything's above board and moving forward.
That's good. All right. Thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. The one thing I would like to just highlight, so we've got an operating result. It's higher than the adopted budget by 1.71 million. And the top item here, mainly due to 3.5 million being received in 24-25 for the 25-26 federal government financial assistance grants. We love those grants. We would like more of those grants, but I think we would also really like to receive them in the financial year that they're for, because it does kind of throw off our numbers right at the end of the year, of the financial year. So just noting that our surplus is not as surplusy as we would like it to be, but we are also very grateful for those financial assistance grants. We would just like more of them. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item. (9.3.2). This is budget carry forwards from 2024-2025 to 2025-2026. Councillor Hayden, would you introduce this item, please?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to approve the carry forwards from the 2024-25 financial year annual budget to the 2025-26 financial year annual budget. The recommended items to be carried forward are comprised of council-funded initiatives of 3.41 million, grant funded from prior years, 1.37 million, the total being 4.78 million. I move that Council, 1, approves the carry forward of 4.78 million of project expenditure from the 2024-2025 budget into the 2025-26 current budget. 2, notes the approved items will be amended in the current budget and will be reported against actual results in the quarterly financial reports for 2025-26. And 3, notes the addition to the 2025-26 current budget of an additional 6.01 million of grant-funded projects not budgeted for in 2025-26 that will be added to the current budget as both income and corresponding expenditure.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hastwell, thank you. Any opposition? No, that's good. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you. So each year, Council adjusts the adopted annual budget for items such as previously approved but incomplete capital works or special projects, some of which have a commitment, such as a purchase order being raised, projects that are grant funded where the funding has either not been fully spent or has been received in advance, and provision for annual targets for government funded services, for example, community services. The adopted budget plus the above changes are reflected in the current budget and reported against actual results throughout the year. This is a pretty standard carry forward. Once again, I commend the team under Julie Landy for the clarity and legibility of all these financial reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hastwell, would you like to speak now?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hayden. I think you've summed that up well. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Nope. Oh, Councillor Driscoll, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things that carry forward. So for projects funded by Council, the carry forward of funds is recommended for 30 projects that are funded by Council. These projects are operational, special or capital in their nature. The total funds recommended for carry forward is 3.4 million. And for the grant funded projects, of the projects recommended for carry forward, a number of these are multi-year projects. 16 projects received 420,545 in unbudgeted grant income for the 24-25 year, with most projects being one-off capital or special projects, and the total recommended is $1.367,761. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Cordy.
Thanks, Mayor. I just mentioned there's an amount of where is it? Well, it's approximately $6 million, but there's an amount of 5.7 million for the Castlemaine Art Museum redevelopment. Now that project's been delivered under the direction of Director Anea, even though that facility isn't owned by us. But I think I'd just like to recognise Director Anir's contribution, because the gallery is an important community asset, and it's because of the high regard for Director Anir and his officers and the council team as a whole that we've been invited to have an active role in that project. So congratulations to Director Anir, and I'm sure it'll be a very successful project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Councillor Hayden, you've got a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. Just that I commend the report to the chamber. I hope everyone supports it.
Thank you. Well, let's find out right now. I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. Moving on, 9.3.3, delegations review. Schedule 6, delegations from council to staff. Councillor Cordy, would you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This report seeks council approval of the delegations to members of council staff, which must be reviewed by council within 12 months of a general election in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, the Act. And I move the recommendation as printed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Do I have a seconder? Oh, Councillor, oh gosh, who is going? Councillor Hastwell? All right. Okay, gosh. Is there any opposition? No? Good. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to the motion?
The Local Government Act prescribes all sorts of powers to council that council has control of, and what this document does is it describes in detail, many pages, which of those functions that are council obligations and responsibilities are delegated to staff, and it's very specific, and it covers all sorts of things that council does in its day-to-day business, and it's a very specific document, and it even includes things that are delegated to the CEO and certain things that can't be delegated to the CEO and vice versa. So very important document, but yeah, so I'd commend this to councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As Councillor Cordy said, this is in accordance with the Local Government Act of 2020. It might sound like that what we're doing is just a bureaucratic procedure, but in fact it also, I consider, a reflection of the trust between councillors and the executive team and council staff. Again, talking particularly as a new council, of the initial getting to know each other, of getting over that and working together as a team, and that respect and trust that we have built with each other. And in that sense, it is very important. I'd also note generally, although it seems at the moment as if we're carrying a few motions pretty quickly, there's been a lot of consultation and discussion going on prior to this, and we're coming in here on an informed basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Then back to Councillor Cordy. You've got a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. I think we've covered it, but there'll be for anyone that's interested as to what all these powers and responsibilities are, they'll be included with the minutes, and it's quite interesting reading because very detailed report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. And yes, as Councillor Cordy said, it is interesting. It is also long. I think it's about 150 pages. And it's It does. It really clearly states how council's power is delegated throughout the organisation to council officers. So it is interesting, but also long. Get ready. If you're going to read it, it is long. Lots of acronyms as well. But there is a very helpful summary of what those acronyms mean right at the start, which I find very good. We have another delegations review at item 9.3.4. This is Delegations Review Schedule 18, Instrument of Subdelegation, Council to Staff, EPA 2017. Councillor Driscoll, would you introduce this item, please?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. This delegation review seeks the Council's approval of the instrument of subdelegation under the Environmental Protection Act 2017. The instrument must be approved by Council on or before the 26th of April 2025 in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020. And Mayor, I'd like to move that Council 1 acknowledges the delegation of powers and functions under the Environmental Protection Act 2017 made in accordance with Section 437(4) of the Act. 2, delegates powers and functions to council officers in accordance with the instrument of subdelegation attached to the report. And 3, notes the instrument of subdelegation comes into force immediately upon this resolution being made and is to be signed by the council, by the council's chief executive officer and the mayor. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hastel, thank you. Is there any opposition? No. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Section 11(7) of the Local Government Act states that council must review within the period of 12 months after a general election all delegations which have been made under the section and are still in force. The environmental protection legislation is no different, and subordinate regulations was changed on the 1st of July 2021. The regulatory powers of council did not change substantially with the changes to the Act. However, it's necessary for council to delegate specific functions to council officers in recognition of the new Act being in force. Under the Section 437 of the Environmental Protection Authority may delegate its powers and functions to council, and councils may in turn delegate these powers onto council officers. These delegations are contained in the attached instrument of subdelegation and primarily relate to enforcement processes under the Act. So the CEO also delegates powers to council officers under this Act, and the updated delegations will be signed off by the CEO should council approve this attached instrument. Councils are required to report annually on their use of the delegation to the EPA, and council can exercise its powers directly under the Act and regulations or under delegation, including the regulation of residential noise, noise from residential construction, litter and waste, including illegal dumping, on-site wastewater management systems, septics with a flow rate equal to or less than 5,000 litres a day. And in most cases, the delegated powers will be exercised by the Management Development Services, the Coordinator Public Environmental Health and the Coordinated Community Safety and Amenity, and the staff from the Environmental Health and Local Laws. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Hastel, would you like to speak now?
Thanks, Mayor. And just to add a little bit similarly to the last item, that council could decide not to delegate powers to council officers. But this is why we have officers, and this is why we have very carefully thought through responsibilities and roles, accountabilities of those officers, and specialised education and experience. So without this delegation, council itself would not be able to carry out its statutory functions and would not be able to execute the powers under the Act. So I thoroughly support this motion for the smooth and effective running of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hastel. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No. Councillor Driscoll, back to you.
Nothing further to add. Thanks, Mayor.
No worries. All right then. Thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. We're up to item 9.3.5, variation to contract M1688 2022, Castlemaine and Campbell's Creek Levy Banks, levy detailed engineering and design services. Councillor Hayden, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. This report seeks approval from Council to vary contract M1688 2022 Castlemaine and Campbell's Creek Levy Banks project detailed engineering and design services to provide additional flood modelling to support the identification of mitigation works for residents of Campbell's Creek and Castlemaine. So this project includes the completion of detailed engineering and design for the 4 levy sites, Castlemaine Cabin and Van Park Levy, the Elizabeth Street Levy, the Campbell's Creek Township Levy, and the National School Lane Levy. So I move that Council 1 notes the cumulative proposed variations for the contract are 32% of the original contract value. 2, notes the overall Castlemaine and Campbell's Creek Levy project is within the original $3.2 million budget. 3, approves the variation of $27,600 to contract M1688 2022 Castlemaine and Campbell's Creek Levy Banks project detailed engineering and design services to provide additional modelling to inform flood mitigation options. And 4, reinstates the Chief Executive Officer's delegation based on a revised contract value of $374,576.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Is there any opposition? No. Then Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. So this variation, and I want to thank councillors who made it out. I think yourself, Mayor, and Councillor Maddock, and maybe others who made it out to the community consultations at Newstead and Campbell's Creek earlier this year. This is a fairly it's a fairly minor, but in dollar terms, but important modification to this contract. The hydrologic and hydraulic modelling has highlighted significant issues and potential negative impacts for the Castlemaine Cabin and Van Park, Elizabeth Street and Campbell's Creek Township and National School Lane levies. Detailed hydraulic and hydrological modelling was undertaken on the recommended option for the proposed levy. The analysis found that protection can be provided for flood events up to and including a 1% AEP flood event. However, there is significant impact to flood heights of the properties outside of the levy. And just as a reminder for myself as much as anyone else, the 1% AEP flood event means there's a 1 in 100 chance of that, not as is commonly thought, 1 in 100 years, and likewise with the 2%. Following the council briefing in June 2024, additional survey and data capture has taken place to assess the likely impacts to properties outside of the protected area. This included surveys of existing floor levels for impacted buildings. Further analysis was undertaken based on a 2% AEP flood event, and it was found that a levy designed to cater for this event could potentially result in marginal impact to 8 properties outside of the levy. The likely overflow inundation to these properties as modelled for a 2% AEP flood is between 5 to 25 millimetres. Now, a community meeting was held on 30th of June 2025. And again, thanks to those councillors who made it there, and of course, big ups to Director Anir for chairing or for managing those meetings. And concerns were raised by the property owners that would be affected by the construction of the 2% AEP levy. This has prompted the requirement for further investigation and modelling. This investigation and modelling are outside the existing contract scope, and so this variation is required. The variation works required are as follows: investigation of possible flood mitigation options for 6 properties on Elizabeth Street and 6 on Elizabeth Street, Campbell's Creek, and 2 on Elizabeth Street, Castlemaine. Modelling for 2% AEP design levy with mitigation in place as suggested in option 1, and comparing this against the 2% AEP design without mitigation measures for all levies. And 3, modelling of all possible options of upstream storage to mitigate flooding within the catchment area for a 1% AEP and a 2% AEP. So this is an important modification to this contract, and I guess in a way, like this happens from time to time, we need to modify contracts, and given all of that context, I think this is in the best interests of those residents as well as us as a shire and as a council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Lost my voice. Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak now?
Yep. Councillor Hayden's correct, and it will continue to get the projects started and moving on to finally get a result.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor, and mainly just to echo Councillor Hayden's sentiments there. It's so important that we get this right, and I pick up frustrations sort of from all sides of the community here. Why don't we just build the levees? The reason is because it's incredibly technical, and it's so important that we get the design of these, the heights of these, right to maximise the positive impacts for the community. So yeah, very happy to support this next step in this project.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No. Back to Councillor Hayden. You've got a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to add that it's when reading reports like this that one really takes one's hat off to engineers for the specialist knowledge that they have. And also I note that the reports, the hydrology and hydraulic modelling reports around this original, the first stages project is so impressive. I don't pretend to understand all of them, but bits of it I understood without having to look too much up. But really impressive work, and as Councillor Maddock says, it's so important that we get this right. It's very technical and very complex work.
Thank you, councillors. Yeah, thank you. I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. And yeah, I think picking up on what other councillors have said, it is incredibly complex. I think when I first heard about the levies, I just thought, oh, you just build a levy and it fixes everything. But unfortunately, that is not the case. It is a lot more complex than that. And any change anywhere along the water system changes everything, and you've got to be very mindful. I think I've been spending time recently with some of the affected residents on the side that will be more affected if we do build the levy, I guess is the way to say it. And I've been spending time at their properties, which are beautiful because they back right onto a creek. But I can see the impact that it would have been the 2022 flood event had on their properties, and I can understand, I guess, really the sentiments of everyone involved who's experiencing flooding or fearful of experiencing flooding. So I think any work that we can do to make sure we have as much information as possible before we need to make a decision about this, because I guess at the end of the day, this is people's houses, and not just their houses, this is actually people's homes, which I think is the thing that you really get when you go on site. You realise that, people live here and intend to keep living here. So yeah, it's great that we're doing this additional work to try and come up with the best solution possible for the most people, because it is going to be a tricky one. And I think, having as much information as we possibly can is what's going to make us informed to make a decision. We are up to item 10, which is delegates' reports. So, Councillor Hastwell, do you have a delegates' report?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just a couple of things I'd like to mention. We were talking earlier on about community asset committees, and it was my privilege to spend time again with the Barangup Community Association Community Asset Committee, who held their AGM on the 8th of September. And again, just wanting to highlight the work that these committees do. Barangup is a fabulous small community with very hardworking members of the committee who also work together very effectively. And again, one of their strengths, I think, is their diversity in terms of the talents and the perspectives that the members bring to their work. Again, so impressed with what they produce, what they support, including the local growers market, a really outstanding newsletter, various events, and I'm very much looking forward to the Barringup Ball and other activities that are a great example of where these committees and these halls are really vital for a small rural village that faces often quite significant challenges. I also just wanted to mention Malden Bakery, if I may, because Malden Bakery has won yet another award, the Great Aussie Pie Competition in Sydney, and Malden Bakery took out the Gourmet Sausage Roll, Classic Meat Pasty, and Curry Beef Pie, gold, silver, and bronze. And how cool is that? So a great example of local businesses that are very embedded in the community and make a real difference to the quality of life for residents, but also a fantastic contribution to the visitor economy. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell, and thank you for sharing the good pies. I'm always a fan of an award-winning pie, so I will go and try those 3 award-winning pies and sausage rolls. Always good to know where to go. All right, Councillor Hayden, do you have a delegates report?
Yeah, thank you. It's been a busy month, but just one event that I want to bring to your attention, Mayor, is the famous Spring Ball. Castlemaine Community House's main fundraiser was on Saturday night early this year. Normally it's in October. When the ball started 31 years ago, it was kind of the only kind of public event on the calendar in Castlemaine in spring. Well, it wasn't the only, but it was probably the largest event on the calendar in spring, those months of spring. And now there's so many events on the social calendar in Castlemaine that I think that might be one of the reasons why they got in early on the 13th of just 13 days into spring to hold the Spring Ball. Good numbers. Ticket sales were strong. I think the house did well. I made some remarks on the to the event that the community house is such an important part of of Castlemaine and Castlemaine's life, and in so many different ways, supporting people in need, helping people retrain for better job opportunities, helping out with access to Centrelink. The food pantry has been a huge success. Mondo, a range of different programs that we also partner with the house in, and I was very happy to relate to the audience that council is very happy to work with the community house, and that one of the reasons we're such a culturally rich town is because of institutions like Castlemaine Community House, which really does perform an extraordinary range of services for the town, much more than most neighbourhood houses of a town of this size. As always, the costumes were outstanding. People really go above and beyond in terms of the costumes there. The food was excellent. I think there was a slight. I think people perhaps even took the costumes even more seriously this year, and the performances were fantastic. A band from Melbourne with some Castlemaine connections, local DJ was fantastic, and we were treated to 2 performances of the Hot Moves No Pressure, or 2 Hot Moves No Pressure troops, which was really great because. As you may know, it's a very difficult event to get a ticket to, Hot Moves No Pressure, so it was really nice for a larger audience to get to see those performances. The gig wound up as usual at 1 o'clock. I don't believe there were any sound complaints or anything of that sort, and a good night was had. So thank you, Mayor, and it was nice to see some fellow councillors at the ball this year as well. Thanks.
Thank you. It did sound wonderful. I looked after my friend's baby so that they could go, and in doing so enabled them to get quite drunk, meaning that I needed to also look after their baby the next day. So I've learnt from my mistake, but I did hear that the costumes were fantastic. Councillor Maddock, would you like to go now?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And while we're on the topic of best pies in the Shire, a big shout out to the volunteers and Community House again for the community lunch today. Served up a very nice pie. I started the day today at the Castlemaine Station, seeing some of our striking kindergarten teachers off onto the rally in Melbourne, and rally organisers report that 1,200 early childhood teachers and educators stopped work today and rallied on the steps of Parliament. In sort of trying to understand what the impact on our community here to those strikes were, I come to a figure of somewhere between 70 and 100 families directly affected by cancelled kinder programs today, including my family. Although we're absolutely supportive of our teachers in their pursuit of better and fairer working conditions. So it's very nice to go down there with my son to see off one of his kindergarten teachers and their colleagues. I think it's a really important thing. They've been in EBA negotiations now for 15 months with no pay offer on the table. And I just note significant concern from the community, and particularly the education community, for negotiations being drawn out to such an extent like that. On Sunday, I was down at the Chewton Memorial soccer field to see two games, the men's or one of the men's reserve teams, and two of the women's reserves playing each other. It's a really great, vibrant club down there. Soccer, yeah. I was encouraged to note the condition of the pitch, which I definitely did, which was looking pretty worn out and tired, being one of the most used pitches, I understand, I should say soccer pitches in the state. The spring ball was wonderful, and I'll just highlight the important work the Community House does. I just find myself constantly referring constituents to various services and things the Community House offer, but particularly new residents to the Shire. It's just such a good touch point. Whether it's a course, whether it's a service, there's so many accessible community programs that run through there. It's a really great thing that we have, and congratulations to them for putting on a very fun and colourful night. I had the honour of speaking at the launch of the Mount Alexander Wildlife Watch at the end of August. I think we have such an incredible amount of passionate people who care tirelessly for our wildlife, care for them directly, but also advocate for their well-being. And understand this organisation is about bringing those people together in a sort of umbrella to bring their advocacy together and hopefully get some initiatives up. So I wish them all the best in that endeavour. I think it's really important work, and I think we're lucky to have these people in our community. And lastly, it was really exciting to attend the launch of the big Maldon and District Community Bank. Community Bank, Maldon and District, I'll get it right. At some point, their announcement of the big project, which is going to assist us to build affordable housing in Maldon for workers, which is just, I think it's so great for Maldon. I think it's so great for the Housing Trust, and it's really a great step forwards for affordable housing in the Shire. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, would you like to do a delegates report?
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief. Well, as one of those who worked the bar at the Springboard, I'm probably responsible for your friend's intoxication. But anyway, first of all, been talking about the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund and work through the Not in Our Name campaign, and that is continuing. A number of mayors and councillors have sent a letter to the Premier requesting a meeting with her. Also, last Sunday, the CFA in Bendigo held a massive rally. Both Councillor Maltby and myself attended to that. I'd say over 1,000 people, at least well over half of them in CFA uniform. Secondly, Wesleyan Church, I think two things. One is thanks and congratulations to the infrastructure team. This is in Chewton for the excellent renovation job they did. People have come and looked at it and they're just absolutely knocked over by the quality of the work. And secondly, to the comms team who organised community consultation and the opening of it so that community people could come and have a look and input on ideas of what could be done with that and what the site could be held. Both of them were very good. Thirdly, last night was the annual general meeting of Chewton Community Pool, where audited financial reports were tabled. Committee was re-elected, noting more than once they acknowledged the support and appreciation from council, with the agreement with them to keep the pool going. Also noted, and everybody knows past, there was some history and tensions there and how both sides have been working together to build a very productive partnership, and they're very happy and appreciative of their relationship with council now. Fourthly, a couple of weeks ago, my role for emergency management portfolio attended the Integrated Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee, which is where the 5 local governments and emergency services come together to plan. And my final input is not the past, but the future. At the last week of this month, my listening posts will start again because all my posts are outside. They go into winter hibernation, but they're starting up and posters are appearing on social media and notice boards in communities in my ward as to when and where I'll be available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Does any other councillor wish to do a delegates report? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. The Deputy Mayor and I attended the Startup Central Victoria a couple of Fridays ago, and that Startup Central Victoria is a free-run program. It goes over 13 weeks to help budding entrepreneurs and startups, and they have different programs that they can go through. And this was a presentation of those people who did the course. There was 19 teams who continued, and 6 of those teams actually came from our shire, which is fantastic. So that's a good thing, and it'll be on next year too. So if there's any budding businesses out there who want a free program, and they do things such as entrepreneurial mindset, business models, commercial law, IP, tech, digital, just sort of to give you a bit of a touch on different things as you start your own business. So we support that, and that was a good thing, and it was a good night. And just the other thing, I had the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust monthly committee meeting as we normally do, and I just want to thank councillors tonight for allowing us to moving forward with that resolution for the expression of interest for the trustees. So thank you. That's it, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does any other councillor wish to do a delegates report? No? All right. The CEO and I have a list. I will go first. Right at the top, Councillor Maddock has already touched on it. So this is a big deal. So it was almost a month ago we attended the big project funding announcement, and so this was a initiative conceived by Community Bank Malden and District, where they would fund. They had $1 million to fund big projects. So all different kinds of organisations and people submitted for this project. And we were very lucky to receive $650,000 towards 2 worker houses in Malden. So we've also contributed $400,000 of council money And we hope, as the work on the trust continues forward, that these will be able to go across to the trust and will be an example of what the trust is able to achieve. It also means that we'll finally get housing on the ground, and this is a project that can be done relatively quickly. We'll be working with Haven Home Safe, who will be managing, and their home builders. It's a really exciting thing. I think it's something, you know, we've been talking about affordable housing for years, and I think, and as Councillor Driscoll, when you spoke on the day, you were kind of reflecting back on that, on the previous council, and when we all sat around the table that first day and kind of went around our priorities, and we all talked about affordable housing and the fact that council, the organisation, was already doing work in that space, and, you know, quite committed to do innovative things. And, you know, we've put on the housing solutions broker, Claire Richards, and council has decided, the previous council has made that an ongoing position. We've got all of these projects kind of almost ready to come to fruition, but it has been a slog because it just takes time. So I think this project in particular is going to, you know, be something that can be achieved quite quickly. It's a partnership project. It's really I think it really helps to see that that Community Bank could see the value in what was proposed. And I obviously want to thank as well members of Tarrangower Tomorrow who really started this initiative, and, you know, they made the initial submission to the bank, and for whatever reason felt unable to continue with that submission, and through great relationships and working together, council was able to pick it up and continue and bring it over the line. So it has really felt like a whole of you know, that real alignment between community and a bank, which is great, and council. And I think, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you feel so good and then you go on Facebook and somebody is like, oh, only 2 houses, that's going to solve the housing crisis. And I was thinking about that because it made me feel very cross. And I was like, well, you've got to start somewhere. Like, 2 houses better than no houses. And like, yeah, I mean, we're doing our best here. This is the start. This could be the start of a lot more. So I'm choosing to not be cross about those comments and instead go, yeah, all right, it's only 2 houses, but 2 houses is still more than no houses. And I think will be a real example of what we can achieve, and hopefully the momentum will flow from there. What else have I circled? Oh my gosh, another beautiful thing. So this is just such a nice one. I had the absolute pleasure of presiding over a citizenship ceremony, not last week, but the week before, I think, and welcoming 12 new Australians, 12 new residents to our shire as Australians. They could have lived here for a very long time, and some of them have. It's a really special thing to do, and it's something that, you know, it's one of those kind of shining lights in my role, because really nobody can get angry about it. It is just nice. And I think we were very lucky to have, you know, 12 new conferees who became Australians. They bring their families, we give them a feed. Uncle Rick is here and gives everyone an individual blessing as they become Australians. We give them a really nice plant for their gardens, and we sing the national anthem, which for the second time I had to do a cappella with no backing music. But I think I did a much better go this time, and I was very impressed at my ability to remember both verses of the Australian national anthem. I think citizenship ceremonies, though, we do them 3 or 4 times a year, and it's just beautiful because what I always say is thinking about how all these people from, you know, diverse backgrounds and from different countries, how all their journeys led them to be living in our shire with their friends and families, and choosing to call our shire home. I think that's so special. So that is a real bright spot. The other, I've been doing a little bit, and I guess the other ones I'd like to pick up on. I'm just going to go with all the nice things because I think that's the way to go. I spent a bit of time with young people this month. I was welcomed to attend a youth advisory group meeting, which was really special. It was in this chamber. We had a cake to celebrate the adoption of the youth plan, which YAG were, you know, a big part of. And it was really great to sit in this room and watch them chair a meeting and assess a grant application, and, it was very cool. And I think there's such a lot that young people have to offer. And I hope that we're, grown-up council, as they call us, are able to spend more time with YAG members in the future. I also was invited along, and Councillor Maddock accompanied me. We went to Castlemaine Secondary College's Wear It Purple Day celebration, which is a celebration of LGBTIQA young people. And it's really just a way, you wear purple. If anyone saw me that day, I was wearing an evening gown, which is basically the only purple thing I own, and I'm just going with it at this point. But it is a way to dress in purple or wear purple and say and express to young people who identify as LGBTQIA+ or their allies that, we see you and we celebrate you, and, good on you for living as yourself, and we accept you just the way you are. And I think particularly what is astounding to me almost is, I feel like I did not go to high school that long ago. I went to CSC, although very little of the original school is left. But it was not like that when I went to school. I was really just I think, a bit of movement in that space, and it was very much, you still did not tell anybody if you were not just what we then called normal. And I love looking at all these kids who, many of them I've known since they were quite small, and they're just learning to, find their identities and just be themselves. And I love it. It was a really special day. And yeah, that was really lovely. I also was invited up to spend some time with kids who attend the Flexible Learning Options program, as well as the Vocational Major program. So 2 programs that aren't mainstream school for students who, for whatever reason, mainstream school is not a good fit for and need a bit more hands-on or flexible learning. It was really great to spend time with them. And I, as I said to them, if either of these things had existed when I was at school, I would have been a flow kid or a VM kid, because mainstream school did not suit me either. We had some really great conversations, but I did really get the sense, particularly from these 2 cohorts of kids, that young people are struggling, and that there is a lot of need in the youth population for more, and to be seen and to be acknowledged a bit more. So I think us adopting a youth plan could not have come at a better time, and I really hope we're able to provide them a few more places and spaces to feel safe and connected and accepted. The last 2 I'll touch on. It's the start of bowls season, so I went to do the first of what will be a number of bowlings, bowling, the first bowl of the season. I'm still not very good. I stayed for about 2 hours trying to get better at bowls. I got a little bit better. I've got another opportunity. I'll be attending Harcourt this weekend, which is exciting. They are celebrating their 70th. Is that right? Very exciting, but it is bowl season. So, get out there. It is very accessible. They have, those grabby, picky up things, so you don't even have to bend down. It's fantastic. And the last one, talking about our fabulous community asset committees, I attended Camp Reserve Community Asset Committee meeting last night. And again, it's just a bunch of people who really, really care quite a lot, doing an awful lot with not very much. Feeling a little bit cranky at times, but, just holding it together and doing really an incredible job of managing assets that we would struggle to manage them all, I think. So very, very appreciative to them. Thank you, CEO.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Might take the list of meetings that I've been involved in as read, Mayor, if you don't mind, and just wanted to add a couple of comments, councillors, about the council plan and the municipal public health and wellbeing plan. First of all, well done to you. Congratulations on what you've achieved in getting both of those plans through tonight, and I think the effort and the thought and the time and the care that you all put into that has been really wonderful to watch, I have to say. I don't think anyone who's not in the room for those discussions, I don't think you can explain to them how difficult it is to try to come together and work out what are you going to do in response to 20,000 residents' needs as expressed through more than 1,200 people's voices. and put that into a plan that makes a bit of sense and also is focused on the right things. It's an incredibly big challenge that all councils are asked to do at the start of their term, let alone once you've been together for a long time and understand each other and work with each other a lot more. So I just say well done to you and thank you for that. The other thing that I wanted to acknowledge, pardon me, in the plan and really thank you for is your decision to include a focus area on the organisation. These plans are often 100% focused on what's happening in the outside world and don't necessarily consider and how do you get those things done? You get them done through an incredibly strong organisation and a well-supported organisation. And I really thank you on behalf of the staff for making that consideration in your plan, in the council plan. It means a lot to us. In return, I'd like to certainly commit on behalf of the whole organisation that we will do our best now to try and deliver on that plan for you over the next 4 years. But thank you again. I'd also just like to echo all of your comments about the hard work from so many staff across the organisation that delivered both of those plans. The ideas come from not just the 1,200 people outside, but so many people with passion within our organisation who want to do great things for our community too. And I really thank everybody who contributed to the different ideas that you all considered through that process. There are, of course, some people who do more than the rest in those processes, and as I think Councillor Haswell mentioned, the likes of Michaela and Anne-Marie in early days in some of the drafting work did an enormous amount of work there to help get those documents to be as impressive a presentation as what they are, and I really thank those staff as well. And finally, I just really have to say thank you to Lisa Knight, as you have. There's not many projects that get much harder than this type of project, and it's not the first rodeo for Lisa in doing these for this council, but I don't think they get any easier, Lisa. They're incredibly complex things to bring together, and they require a lot of guts and a lot of persistence, a lot of thought and a lot of care, and way too many hours. So I just really thank you, Lisa, as well as Ali for her support of you, and just say thanks again to you for 2 incredibly wonderful documents that you've supported this council to put together and have adopted tonight. Well done.
Thank you, CEO. And we'll be farewelling the CEO after this, who is off on leave after this. So Director Anania will be acting CEO henceforth, and we will run into the "Are you related?" question many times. Thus, I have auditor's badges that say "not related" that we can wear whenever we sit next to each other. They're not here yet, but I will let you know when they get here. Fantastic. Great delegates reports, everyone. Item 11, notices of motion, there are nil. Item 12, urgent special business, there is nil. We do have one confidential item to discuss. So item 13 under confidential items, there is a motion. Is someone prepared to move that? Councillor Driscoll.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Mayor, I'd like to move that Council closes the ordinary meeting of Council on the 16th of September 2025 in accordance with Section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 in order to consider confidential information as it contains, as defined in the Local Government Act under Section 3, definition of confidential information. F, personal information being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor. All in favour? That's all of us. So I will now close this meeting of Council. Thank you, everyone.